Welcome to Break the Cycle with Bethany Dotson, the podcast for high-achieving professional women who struggle with codependency, attracting emotionally unavailable partners, and who repeat dysfunctional patterns in love. I'm your host, Bethany Dotson, and if you want to learn more about how to break your cycle in love, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and be the first to know when a new episode drops. I'll see you inside. Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's show. So I wanted to talk about the number one best way to heal after a toxic relationship. And really, this is not just about healing after your ex, although a lot of people come to me to do that. It's really about healing your general relationship with yourself and what's likely been for you a lifelong pattern of people pleasing, of fixing other people at your own expense, of being an overachiever because you deeply feel on a subconscious level inadequate or unlovable and you want people to like you. And how you basically, a lot of women that I work with complain a lot about how their ex betrayed them. And working with this pattern and healing this pattern, I'm going to lower my seat. Healing this pattern is more about how you betray yourself. So I'm going to talk about a few things that you might have already done that have been helpful, but they're not getting you all the way past your trust issues or getting into dating again or attracting a healthy relationship. And then I'm going to share the number one best way to do that and break that cycle. The first thing that I want to say is that the pattern that you have in love, especially if you're coming right off of a divorce or the breakup of a emotionally abusive relationship, maybe you've gone back and forth several times hoping that it would get better. Now this is your final time. The first thing that I want you to realize is that this doesn't really have anything to do with your ex. The reason you got into this relationship precedes long before you met your ex. In fact, the reason you were a match to this type of a relationship and continued to say yes has nothing to do with anybody else but yourself. And I know that can be hard to hear, especially if you've had an abusive relationship or more than one. And that's not to say that abuse of any kind is ever your fault, but we have to take responsibility and look at our behavior. And it's usually behavior that we're not aware of fully, and the way that we believe and perceive ourselves and what's available to us in relationship, what opportunities are available to us. It all goes back to your belief system, your subconscious belief system, especially. And if you have relational trauma where you grew up maybe in a childhood environment where you didn't feel safe, we usually end up taking on beliefs that we're not good enough, that we can't take up space, that there's something wrong with us, that we're unlovable. Maybe you had a great childhood, but you still get into unhealthy relationships. Just one adult relationship that's toxic can really put a mark on your psychology and your ability to open your heart again. I was watching, I think it's Emergency NYC. It's a show on Netflix about emergency responders, EMTs in New York City, and following them along on rides that they go on, and the trauma surgeons that work on these people. And a trauma surgeon said, and it really stuck with me, we can fix the hole in their body, like the gunshot wound, but that person, that patient, will be spending the rest of their lives healing the emotional hole, the mental hole that took on them. And so while you might not have had a traumatic car accident or a gunshot wound, the wounds that you have inside, your psychological wounds, can take you a lifetime to heal if you do things the slow way. Or if you don't do anything at all and use unhealthy coping, you might not ever get over that. And I don't mean to sound like a Debbie Downer, but without further ado, mistakes, not really mistakes, but a couple of things that you may have tried to heal after narcissistic abuse, but you're still stuck. The number one thing is spending a lot of your time researching the narcissist. Two things with this. It could be that your ex is a narcissist. I think what the studies show is, I don't know, it's less than 10%, 4%, maybe something like this, of the population is actually truly narcissistic. The other thing to keep in mind is that we all have narcissistic traits. So the word narcissism, while I do specialize in healing this type of trauma, it's so widely overused by pop culture, and it's like one of the number one search terms in Google is the narcissist. So the number one thing that you may have done to try and help yourself pass this pattern is spending a lot of time focusing on your ex, focusing on what he did to you, reading articles about the narcissist, and then lining up all of his behavior with all of the symptoms of what narcissism is, and really taking a lot of time outside of yourself, focusing on the other person. And there's two downsides to this. The first thing is that if you have a pattern of toxic relationships in your love life, you are likely already spending a lot of your time focusing outside of yourself on other people. This is indicative of being codependent. I want to help you. I want to fix you. You may do this with your kids. You may do this in your business or your line of work. I work a lot with women who are in a healthcare or helping profession. That trait is good in their career. Sometimes there's often poor boundaries in her career, but it often winds up being extremely volatile and detrimental in her love life. When you focus on what the other person did to you, you remain blind in so many ways on how you co-created that situation. You remain blind to your own trauma, the own ways that you ignored red flags. One of the first questions that I ask women on breakthrough calls is, when was the very first time with your ex you sensed a red flag? And a lot of times these women are coming onto the phone and they're like, he did this, and then we stayed together for 25 years and he did all these things to me. And when I ask, when did you very first sense that things might be off with your ex? 99% of the time, it was always immediately or right away within the first couple of months. So if you continue to spend all the time, all your healing time, focusing on the narcissist, while it can be validating to hear that other people have also experienced this, and it's pretty widely known, the downsides of this are that a lot of inexperienced, unprofessional people in psychology are diagnosing people as being a narcissist who don't have any experience in this. It keeps your focus on the other person and off of your own traits that cause you to be susceptible to these types of relationships, your own trauma, and it keeps you activated. I wrote an article not too long ago about how reading research about the narcissist activates the same part of your brain and the same neuropeptide response in your body that as you would have if you interacted with your ex. So if you're out of the relationship and you're still ruminating about your ex, part of your daily activity to stay in that addiction could be researching the narcissist. Like I said before, your patterns in love have nothing to do with your ex. They're almost always have to do everything with you and your childhood conditioning, your early life conditioning, or past relationships that you haven't fully healed from. So the second thing that you may have already tried to help yourself heal, but you're still stuck, is doing a lot of talk therapy. Talk therapy has been widely promoted over the last several decades. It's been called the talking cure. Like basically when soldiers came back from the war, they had shell shock or they didn't know what PTSD was at that time. And one of the ways that they helped soldiers overcome these problems was by going into a room with a doctor or a psychologist and talking about it. So this has been good to a certain extent, cognitive behavioral therapy, but what the research shows over the last 10 or 15 years is that talk therapy has a lot of limitations, especially when it comes to relational trauma. If you have relational trauma and you get into relationships that go very quickly, or that you don't know how to set boundaries, or you don't trust yourself, or that you chronically feel unsafe and then modify your behavior, hoping to make the relationship work, all of that and more comprises relational trauma. When you have relational trauma, what happens is that you ultimately are more comfortable with emotional distance in a relationship setting. And this might not be isolated to your love life. You might find this pattern present in your friendships, in your work environment, with coworkers or clients, with your family, even. You feel more comfortable keeping people at a distance. When you go to a therapist, a therapist can be like the first healthy relationship that you develop. And I know in my early stages of recovery, it was certainly for me. But talk therapy typically doesn't go deep enough to help you reach those subconscious programs that you've memorized from early on. And your subconscious mind is, number one, things that you're not aware of. So talking about it is only like keeping it logical and only talking about things that you are consciously aware of. The second thing that can be a limitation with talk therapy is your trauma is actually stored down here in your body. So your body is intricately connected to your trauma and your behavior. And when you talk about something and you analyze it mentally and logically in your past, what you end up doing is feeling the same tension, the same stress, the same sadness, the same anxiety, as if it were happening now, as if you were reliving that experience now. And what brain scans show is that when you do this and you continue to do this year after year, month after month in a therapy session, you're just refiring the same neural pathways in your brain that are associated to the bad behavior. You're not creating any new neural pathways. And the big kicker for this is that you can go to therapy for many years. And I have seen this thousands of times where I've talked to women and they've been in therapy for years, sometimes decades, and their relationship choices continue to get worse and worse. There is a stark gap that needs to be spoken about. And talk therapy can help you feel good in the moment. It can help you get out of crisis mode, like maybe you're leaving a relationship. But if you are looking to heal this pattern, you need to be using a trauma-informed method and using something somatic-based that includes your body in the healing process. So the number one best way to heal your pattern and heal the trauma after your narcissistic ex or your latest relationship or your latest divorce is by, number one, working with an expert who is a trauma-informed expert. There are, I think the last time I read, 80% of therapists are not trauma-informed. What does this mean for you? It means that most people are going to, if they're not trauma-informed, they don't have experience in this, they're going to keep you talking about your past. They're going to let you use that 45-minute session to vent all about your problems, but you're not going to have any structure. You're not going to have any direction. You're not going to have any accountability. You might come to your next session and it might be about recapping what you talked about the last time. You spend 30 minutes doing that, and then you're not really sure what you're supposed to do. So there can be a lot of time wasted. The other thing is that, like I said before, you're going to keep talking about it, but you're not creating any new feelings or new neural pathways or new behavior. And whenever we change somebody's behavior from a coaching perspective, it's really hard. It's not easy. People hire a coach to join a gym and lose a bunch of weight and get on stage and do a fitness competition. That process is really hard. There are many times where they don't want to do the work because they're going against their own belief systems, their own comfort zone. And so a lot of times, if you're just going it on your own, which may be more comfortable for you, especially if you have trust issues, I hear a lot of women like, I'm just going to fix this by myself, or I'm just going to read, or I'm going to take a lot of time off, or I'm going to focus on my career. And then 4 or 5 years goes by and she falls for another asshole. So nothing really changed. So the best way is to work with an expert who is trauma informed, who is going to, number one, hold you accountable, give you a proven plan forward. So a proven plan forward means every week taking steps out of your comfort zone that challenge your vulnerability, your ability to be vulnerable, that challenge and condition more confidence in yourself, that put you outside of your comfort zone, that challenge you to trust yourself and trust making quick decisions and not over analyzing things. And then at the same time, so here in Break the Cycle, we do this with our clients every week, getting them out of their comfort zone every week, socially and in relationship settings. But then we also, behind the scenes, every day, they're doing somatic therapy to rewire their psychology. So working with a trauma-informed expert that's going to give you a plan, a structure, does a few things, right? It keeps you out of ruminating, and it ultimately breaks your habit of ruminating about your ex. It starts turning your focus off of everybody else. So maybe you're going through a really tumultuous divorce. You could be triggered by your divorce attorney, by your ex, by your family, by your kids, by your friends, by people at church, whatever. When you're continuously focused out here, you're still living in fight or flight. Working a structured plan that's trauma informed invites you to turn your focus on yourself. And whenever you turn your focus on yourself, you create a deeper sense of self-awareness. When you apply and use trauma-informed methods, somatic therapy, which looks like simple, basic movement, being aware of how you feel in your body in that moment, being aware of memories or shame that you store in your body, specific guided meditations to rewire you in your brain and how the neuropeptides are firing in your body, how you feel every day. When you practice this day after day, you're not focusing on your childhood anymore and re-anchoring that identity of I come from a broken home and this is I'm unlovable and this is all I'm going to get and I don't believe love is possible for me. 90% of the women that I talk to have that identity when they come on the phone. What we do is recondition a new identity of I feel love every day, even though I'm alone and by myself. I feel happy every day, even though my job is still stressful and my finances aren't exactly where I want them to be yet. And I haven't found anybody on a dating app yet, and I still have fear around that. So when you condition yourself, you build this really strong relationship with yourself and following a plan every day and following a trauma-informed plan, most importantly, to rewire you. And then as you're rewiring on your own time, and then you're bringing the work with you in your daily life, you create a seamless habit that over time becomes automatic and your new unconscious habit that you just do and you don't have to think about it anymore. It becomes the new you. So why is it so important to work with an expert when you're doing this? Because the moment you step out of your comfort zone, you are going to be met with your fear. Most of the women that I work with knew very early on their ex was toxic or unhealthy, but she spent years, if not decades, overriding her intuition, stuffing her identity, cutting off parts of herself, shrinking her confidence, shoving her self-worth down the toilet, right? So if there's so many people that know what they need to do, but because they believe that they're unlovable or they're not worthy or it's not possible for them, they will hold themselves back and not take the actions necessary out of their comfort zone that are going to lead them to the life and the love that they want. So if you're watching this and you realize it's been a few months, it's been a few years, and since my ex, and I'm still stuck emotionally, I still feel numb all the time. I still feel hopeless about my future. I still feel like I can't date. I want to date. I want to have a healthy relationship, but I have all of this crap in front of me that is preventing me from taking action. I'm scared I'm going to meet another narcissist. I'm scared of what if I get rejected again? Whatever the fears are, those fears act like a barricade that keep your walls up. And the type of emotional state that you want to have every day and the life you want and the love you want out. And letting those walls down is a lot easier said than actually done. So you can read all the research that you want. You can talk about your problems all day, every week, not all day, but every week, once a week in therapy. And there's nothing wrong with that necessarily. You can feel validated You can feel like, okay, somebody actually listened to me. I don't have anybody in my life that listened to me. But take it from somebody who spent 12 years in talk therapy, and I still made that my choices in relationship got worse and worse. And I have childhood trauma. And most of my clients have spent a lot of time in therapy, and they felt good in the moment. It got them some clarity, but they were still not meeting the right people. They were not dating. They didn't feel good about themselves. They were still workaholics. They were still shopping their feelings away, having too much wine, numbing themselves out, just staying stuck in a rut. So if you realize you've done those things and you've gotten some insights, but you're still not where you want to be, and you know that there's a gap that you need to close, and you know you want to have a healthy relationship in the future, but you don't know how to do that, especially if your last ex was the worst of them all and you've done all the right things and it's still not working, and you really doubt yourself and you really doubt if it's ever possible for you, then I invite you to book a breakthrough call. Go to bethanydotson.com/talk, and we'll have a very honest, eye-opening conversation about what's really holding you back. What's really holding most people back is fear in some form or another. It could look like a lot of excuses. It could look like a lot of it's not possible for me, whatever the case may be. But if you realize I can't do this alone, I don't want to do this alone. I need somebody who's going to hold me accountable. I need to be out of my comfort zone. I know logically that's what needs to happen for me to grow, but I know myself. I'm gonna quit on myself if I do it by myself, if I do everything on my own. So if you align with that, you're professional, you may be in a helping profession, you're educated, you're driven, but behind closed doors, you always wind up with the same type of unavailable person. Like your love life is embarrassing to talk about in public. Then bethanydotson.com/talk, and we'll see if we can help you get to the bottom of why you're really stuck, get super, super clear on what you really want for your life moving forward, what kind of a relationship you want. A lot of times, women that I work with change their careers or they up level in their careers because the same patterns of people pleasing and overachieving and codependency that show up in her love life also show up in her career. So she's settled in her love life. She's also probably settling in her career to some degree. So if that's you, book a call. We'll have a very honest conversation. If we can help you, we'll give you all of the details of what that looks like. And then if we think something else is better for you, we're going to steer you in that direction. So either way, you've got the next step to start getting really connected to the future you want. And most importantly, taking action on that future, not just gathering logical theories of childhood trauma and narcissism and then still feeling stuck every day. So if you're ready to take action and it's an urgent priority for you to fix this now, bethanydotson.com/talk. Have a beautiful rest of your week, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you for tuning in to today's show. A brand new episode drops each week. Be sure to click and subscribe. And remember, healing trauma, codependency, and your lifelong pattern in love does not happen by itself. You need expert guidance and evidence-based methods. And I have helped hundreds of incredible women from all over the country heal betrayal trauma and reclaim their confidence while falling wildly in love with their own lives and attracting healthy relationships. If you like what you heard today and you want to see if you're fit to work with us, go to bethanydotson.com/talk. That's bethanydotson.com/talk and book a call to speak with us today. We'll get on the phone for about 45 minutes and get you crystal clear on 3 things. The real reason you keep attracting dysfunctional relationships, even if you know better or even if you've done tons of work on yourself. What you really want in a relationship, how you want to feel emotionally every single day in your life, and what lifestyle changes you want to make. And then number 3, the exact strategy you need to be using to get there. Again, healing trust issues, codependency, and a lifelong pattern does not happen without expert guidance. We've helped hundreds of women across the country heal complex trauma, codependency, and have the healthiest relationships ever both with themselves and with others. Go to bethanydotson.com/talk to book your call today. I'll see you on the next episode.